Hey, welcome to the crawfish pond at the rice station. I'm Pierre Crawfish, and welcome to my home. Aye.
It's boiling hot out here.
Welcome to the crawfish demonstration pond we have here at the rice station. On this year's virtual rice tour, we get to tell you about our crawfish research that's going on here. We want to thank the Rice Research Board for funding this project. Over the years, I've had a lot of discussion with rice farmers about should I second crop my rice where I'm going to do crawfish. So we actually set up this experiment. We have two 7-acre ponds that were treated the same. Both sides, the east and west side, were planted at the same time with some pirogue rice back in March. We grew the rice, we harvested the rice, both sides, in September. Then in November, we harvested the second crop on the east side. And all through the crawfish season, we've been monitoring the water quality as well as monitoring the crawfish catch. We harvested both sides the same. And both sides were harvested from right at the end of December to the end of May. We have about 79 trap days. And the results of that is that on this side, with a single crop, we harvested 662 pounds per acre. On the double crop side, we harvested 640 pounds per acre, so only about a 22-pound difference. But that difference in poundage really, when you look at the difference in price, we caught more crawfish early in the season, January, February, on this side. So if you look in terms of dollars per acre, this side came out $70 better than this side that was second cropped. So from that standpoint, if you think, well, should I harvest that second crop or not? In most cases, rice farmers are going to put a lot of input, fertilizer, then they have the harvesting cost. It's going to be roughly about $120 or $130 worth of extra inputs to make that second crop. If you add in the difference of $70 in crawfish, that's about a $200 break-even point. So at $20 a barrel of rice, if you can cut more than 10 barrels, in this case, if we could have cut more than 10 barrels of rice, it would have paid you to harvest that second crop and just accept that your crawfish crop would be a little bit later. You still may have almost the same volume, but it's going to be a later crop. In this case, our rice crop that we had was pretty thin stand, and we probably only had 5 or 6 barrels per acre for that second crop. So in this case, yeah, we probably did more damage to the crawfish, or we lost money by harvesting that second crop in this case. Many of the rice farmers do a much better job on that second crop, and if you got 12, 15, 18, 20 barrels per acre on the second crop, you're probably going to make more money doing that. The other thing about second cropping, and the comments I get from rice farmers, is that that second crop, it's a sure thing. I can look out there and estimate about how much is out there, and in 1 or 2 days I harvest it, that money's in the bank. With the crawfish crop, it's going to take 5 or 6 months before you finally catch all the crawfish and look at the money that you have and see if you actually came out ahead. So I can see where rice farmers, you do want to harvest that second crop if it looks good enough. If for whatever reason, weather and insects or hurricanes, whatever, it's not quite as good, maybe it is best to leave it for the crawfish. One of the other interesting things that we saw doing this experiment is just how good and bad water quality gets. Of course, in that second crop, to harvest it, we lowered the water level only to 3 or 4 inches. We harvested that second crop, came back and filled it back up to about 8 or 10 inches of water the next day. With all that fresh cutting of biomass down in the water, oxygen was a lot worse in that second crop field versus this single crop field. And I think that contributed to the delayed growth of those crawfish. But we did monitor dissolved oxygen, and we actually have a little monitor here that we found that actually checks the oxygen content every hour, oxygen and temperature, and it records that data, and for about a 48-hour period. So we just kind of put those down. The tip of that probe is right near the bottom where the crawfish are, and what it showed was that we do have that daily cycle of oxygen. It goes up during the day with sunshine. It'll go back down during the nighttime. So usually after midnight, it might be 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, it's dipping down, in some cases less than 1. And we found it here in the single crop field. We had those episodes of up and down, but when it dropped below 1 part per million, we usually only 2 or 3, maybe 4 hours at a time. Whereas over in the second crop rice, particularly in the fall, we saw extended periods of below 1, of maybe 4 or 5 or 6 hours below 1 before it finally got back up. So it's kind of showing us that no matter what you do, and at any month of the season, whether it's in the fall or even in winter or spring, you do have this up and down cycle, and it's important to flush some water. And here in these ponds, we have our irrigation system. So the riser comes up, dumps the water on that screen. That's well water with 0 oxygen. The screen aerates that water, mixes oxygen, the air with the water, and that gives you plenty of oxygen. But you have to realize that doesn't automatically freshen up the whole pond in a matter of minutes. It takes hours for that water to get to the other side of the field, and this is just 7 acres. So in a lot of cases with a 20 or a 30 or 40 or 50 acre crawfish pond, pumping water, it's going to take a long time for that water that's oxygenated to spread out and get to all parts of the field. So by the time oxygen levels are that low, it may be too late to actually efficiently pump. So we're going to look at some of the management practices and try to come up with some better recommendations on how to manage your water even when you have low oxygen. If you can drop a few inches out, maybe a high tide, low tide situation, and get some water moving all across the field. So we're going to look at that next season. We do have 2 new ponds that we're going to look at for next year, 2 7-acre cuts just like we did this year. Just a couple of weeks ago we stocked those with crawfish from our own field, and we're going to run this experiment again, and hopefully we won't have the coronavirus to deal with, and weather patterns will be better, but we'll see if we do a better job on the second crop. But we're going to repeat this project and see if some of these conclusions still hold up for year 2. Again, we thank the Rice Research Board for funding this project. I think it's important for both rice and crawfish farmers, and we thank you for your attention today, and hope you enjoy the rest of the rice tour.